Hello, everybody. It's great to be here one more time today. And my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley, Palo Alto, California. I've been involved in 17 startups and several unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. And recently, we sold Eva.ai to Vizier in Canada. We believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And we also believe we got to make an impact on the planet Earth. And with that, I'd like to introduce Tina Butler to you. Tina is the marketing manager, the marketing at Gazelle Bikes North America, located in Santa Cruz. And I didn't ask her, but she probably likes to surf. And she's a marketing generalist with deep experience in brick and mortar retail and e-commerce. She's worked for companies like Walmart in social media, content, and strategy as a specialist. So with that, I'd like to bring her on board. Hi, Tina. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing very well. Thank you. It's great to be here.
You went to the Presidio. Like, where is that the Presidio in San Francisco?
It is interesting. We rented space, and by we, I guess my school rented space from Fort Mason of all places. So not technically in the Presidio, but our administrative offices were there. But it was a pretty unique residency focused program. So it was an MBA, 100% focused on a sustainable management track. So triple bottom line, people, planet, profit, which I heard has been rebranded now to People, Planet, Progress. But back in my day, it was People, Planet, Profit. So real strong focus on both environmental and social issues, and really taking that into account when you look at how to do business more ethically, more long-looking. So it was a really unique program, and it was just intensive 4-day-long weekends once a month that gave you time to actually take what you were learning into practice into your own career. And the average MBA age there was 35, which at the time was much younger or much older than the average of 28 for more traditional programs. So definitely an eye-opening experience. Got to look at business from all angles.
And had a nice view too.
Oh my God, incredible view. And in the occasional heat wave, we would go jump into the bay, which was a pretty cool experience to take a break from your, managerial accounting course and jump into the San Francisco Bay.
So you went down through, you did that. I mean, you've worked with a variety of companies. So you did the Google AdWords, you were a temp, you were a staff writer and editor, so you've done a lot of different parts of marketing. How in the world did you go to Walmart?
Yeah. So like in case any of my colleagues are going to see this later, but so I went to grad school. I read this book called Cradle to Cradle, which is about revisiting industrial design and looking at how can we revisit the design and built environment and make it less extractive, less toxic, look at the waste chains, negative externalities associated with producing, human design goods and actually move the world forward. So that was very eye-opening. I was like, okay, I'm not an activist. I'm not a policy wonk. I'm not going to go into government. If we are in a capitalist society, business is the most powerful lever to truly make an impact. So let's figure out how to radicalize a better future through business. So went in, eyes wide open.
Radicalize a better future through business. I think that's great.
So I left a job with health insurance and like stability in 2007. Everything is fine. And then, the subprime mortgage crisis, all the various things that happened from 2008, 2009, et cetera, and then graduated in 2009. And I went in like, oh, Walmart, I'm going to take them down. And then graduated in a recession and through the beach volleyball community. So I don't surf, but I do play beach volleyball. Met someone who worked for Walmart.com, and there was an opportunity in health and wellness and around community engagement. And that was that kind of thing where if you go to a nonprofit, you spend 100% of your energy making a really wonderful, lovely, but small impact. But if you can go to a company like Walmart that operates on the scale that it does, world's largest employer of veterans, like every single superlative, that's what Walmart is. And you can make a 2% positive impact there. The scale of the impact due to the scale of operations is profound. So surprising myself, went into Walmart.com, was quickly reorged into Walmart stores, so the whole shebang. And then I had started a Facebook page for the health and wellness category. Facebook was just getting started for business, and they're like, hey, we could use some help as we're starting our first official Walmart Facebook page. So I ended up taking over the social media helm of all of Walmart, which was an interesting
Pandora's. Yeah, how was that? That had to be interesting, yeah.
It was very interesting, very eye-opening. But did a lot of great work there. But the longer that I was there, the more I wasn't really focused on sustainability. I got further and further away from kind of what was really important to me. So after 3 years, I was like, it's time to do a reset and kind of revisit what's important and figure out what's next. So did a bit of a walkabout, went to Madagascar, had some lemur interactions and a couple other things.
You went to Madagascar. Wait, what is it? You did your walkabout. You wanted to see lemurs? Is that it?
Yeah, lemurs and stuff, and just to see a completely different environment that was the opposite of Walmart. Kind of get reconnected with nature, reconnected with biology, kind of inspired by some of the things I read in Cradle to Cradle, and then also biomimicry, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and looking at how do you take how nature, it's the ultimate R&D studio. So how does nature solve problems? How do they make incredible ceramics that are, pound per pound stronger than Kevlar, looking at mollusks, right? And the natural shells that they create, or spider silk and how it's this non-toxic polymer that, ounce per ounce has like 8 times the tensile strength of steel. It's like, this is incredible. What can we learn from it? So just getting back into nature.
That sounds like Spider-Man.
Hey, you eat some old leftovers, anything could happen. But anyway, just got back in it. And then
wait a minute, how long were you in Madagascar?
I was there for about 6 weeks, so it wasn't too long, but it was enough to get certainly very inspired and kind of reconnected to what makes me tick and what gets me thinking about new opportunities. And then I ultimately connected with some old colleagues from Walmart, friends of friends, who were working on a startup called Cherish, and definitely not lemurs, definitely not spider silk, but it was an e-commerce marketplace that was going to be basically a discovery platform for vintage furniture. So for me, that actually felt really good because it was all about prioritizing thoughtful, durable design that's meant to last, and not that throwaway fast fashion, made to break, made to obsolesce. The idea that you could spend money on something well made and your grandkids could give it to their grandkids. So that really resonated with me from a sustainability standpoint. So joined as like the 9th employee. At the time, we were squatting in like our VC's office on the North Waterfront of the Embarcadero in San Francisco, and then spent 7 incredible years there really growing the brand, which was a great opportunity. San Francisco changed a lot in 7 years. My time there was about 2012 to about 2017. So it's just like at a certain point, I was like, all right, I'm feeling more connected to the beach culture of Santa Cruz. And I kind of not scratching that sustainability itch as much as anymore. It's more pure e-com, and we're bringing in some newly made items. And this bike opportunity came across, and there's no looking back. I went from having 1 bike to 5 bikes, to using my car, to my car is just a house for spiders at this point. Weirdly, I think spiders will be the theme of this conversation today.
It's interesting.
I don't see that coming.
I don't know where the spider thing's going, but here we are.
But anyway, this has really kind of met that need of bikes are radical, but they're also radically simple. There's certainly some environmental things that I'm reconciling. I think areas where we can improve, but big steps that are being made in terms of making the operations more sustainable when you are moving big things around the planet in a large global supply chain. But just the simple act of taking a bike instead of the car to do simple things in your life, and the ripple effect in the community, in your mindset, in your mental cognition stimuli, in your physical fitness. Like, I'm sure you can speak to it, being an avid cyclist yourself. It's profound and it's simple. So it's been,
oh my God, it's so much fun. It's like being a kid again. In fact, I wrote an article about being a kid again, riding e-bikes, because, you take the e-bike. I can do 34 miles round trip, and I go down here in Florida. I go down by the Everglades, and I see bobcats, I see bears, I see all kinds of different critters, raccoons, alligators. As a matter of fact, when I was riding my bike down a couple of days ago, there was a big alligator, probably a 12-footer, laying across the dirt road. And I thought it was a log. I thought, I don't want to hit this log. I'm like, that is a huge log. And I go up and I'm like, oh my God. It was because it was getting a little dark.
Yeah.
Somebody put it off. They were trying to stop us from going. Here, no. It looked like a dinosaur. It was an alligator laying on the road. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm freaking with this alligator. And the good news, I'm not near its head.
Yeah. And you've got the escape velocity that only an e-bike can afford, right? In case
I was thinking about, the escape velocity. I was thinking about, if I got to really go, I gotta, actually, I got to be honest with you. What I was thinking to Tina is, if it comes after me, I'm going to put the bike in front of me.
That's a very natural reaction. When I'm mountain biking, we have some mountain lions, in the hills, and human lion interaction is pretty rare, but you never know. You could be that unlucky
Have
person.
you
I always
seen
think
them?
about,
Have
like,
you
I will
seen them out
sacrifice the bike. I will put the tire in its mouth.
there? Exactly.
That's all.
Have you seen them when you're biking? Have you ever seen a mountain lion?
I've never seen a mountain lion. I have seen bobcats. I've seen tracks, and there's definitely been reportings of mountain lions, and I've heard some near misses anecdotally. But yeah, I'm very grateful to have not. I mean, it'd be incredible, but you want to see it on your terms. Like, you want to see it first, but those are like very adept sensory predators. There's no way that they don't see you first, or smell you first, or hear you first. So yeah, I just like to see them from like across, a distant bluff.
Well, I was riding my bike. So we do have some panthers, which are smaller versions of mountain lions here.
Yeah.
And I was riding my bike. I don't know what it was, but I know it was a big cat with a long tail, and it was laying in the grass and it was flicking its tail up. And when I came down, it put its head like bent down a little bit. It was between a 40 and 80-pound cat. I don't know it was a bobcat, but it was weird because it had a long tail and it had spots, which I thought the panthers or mountain lions didn't have spots, but in reality, I looked on the
They
internet.
can definitely have some little rosettes. Yeah, they can.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know what it was. Like, I was like dumb because I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. I'm going to go down. I'm thinking, are you nuts? Like, that could be, if it is a mountain lion, that's crazy. And if it's a bobcat, it might be crazy too. Just forget it.
Bobcats are pretty ferocious. I mean, they're like baby lynxes,
Yeah, no, I know. It's amazing. So tell me about, so I've had the pleasure for the last 7 years of having e-bikes. So I've seen the evolution from hub-mounted motors all the way to the performance line Bosch, right? Some of the ones that you have. So tell me a little bit about it. What's the history of Gazelle? Where did Gazelle come from?
Well, thank you for asking. I always appreciate getting to do a little origin story, because it's actually a pretty good one. So Gazelle's a 130-year-old company, Dutch company, and it was started by two friends, a postman and a blacksmith. So it's almost seems like the setup for a joke. But the postman was recently enjoying this lovely invention of the bicycle. It was making his job so much easier, doing his route, getting his mail and packages where it needed to go, and he was really hot on it. So he went to his friend and he's like, I think this technology is really going to take off. Like, let's go all in. So they first start importing bikes from England initially in 1892. Then in 1902, they're like, I think we can bring our costs significantly down if we just make this stuff ourselves. And since you're a blacksmith and you have a forge, like, we can just work on this together, no big deal. So they start working together, producing bicycles in Dieren, which is this cute little town in a kind of rural area of the Eastern Netherlands. And things go really well. But I imagine at one point, the blacksmith's family is like, hey, we want our forge back. Like, this is ridiculous. This has gotten out of control. So they amicably part ways. And then Willem Koning ends up bringing on some of his family members. It becomes a true family business. Some things happen, like World War II, a couple different things. It's a little bit of an interesting history, but a couple of things that are pertinent, particularly to the e-bike discussion. So as soon as electricity is invented, there's all these kind of interesting people being like, what can we electrify? So e-bikes weren't necessarily a new thing, but there were a lot of epic fails. And so there was a first attempt to do an e-bike in 1932, like a prototype for Gazelle. But then in 1937, they actually did a collaboration with Philips, which is another iconic, Dutch electronics brand. And they had the first actual production run e-bike. It was 110 pounds. Its top speed was 11 miles an hour. It had a range of about 24 miles, but it did take an entire day to charge. So there was a first good, solid attempt at e-bikes. And then they
What year was that?
That was 1937.
Wow, that's amazing.
There's actually a picture of it. It's on display at this place called the Nemo Museum in Amsterdam. So you can see it. It's great looking. It just looks like it's got an outboard motor attached to its side. But pretty cool history. They started to revisit e-bikes in earnest in the kind of early 2000s, really starting more around 2009. And now are kind of fully on board. But got the Royal Dutch designation in 1992 on its 100th anniversary. So the princess came and gave the designation. This is a really important thing in Dutch culture. The company has to be at least 100 years old, a leader in its field. So there can be no other royal bike companies. There's like Royal Dutch Shell, Royal Dutch Phillips. So it's a real honor to have. And then you also have to have like best practices, whether how you manage your people or ISO certifications. So it's a real badge of pride, and we work really hard to uphold that. And then more specifically for the United States and Canada, we entered in North America officially in around 2017 with kind of just a odd selection of bikes, but have really grown the brand here and started to really think about how the fleet will meet the needs of the American market. So it's been really strong growth and really cool development. And, you know, e-bikes kind of broke onto the scene in North America, I'd say around 2010. There were some earlier entrants with sort of hub motors, and that's obviously still a really popular choice, but mid-mounted motors really started to sort of hit their stride and become a little more common in the last 10 years or so. And I think, you know, as we all see, any search online, any video, any article, I mean, e-bikes are having this moment, and it's really becoming mainstream, which is exciting.
No, it's great. So the company was bought by what? Pons, right? The Pons group, or is it Pons family or group?
It's a Pon family. So yeah, another Dutch family business, and they have a pretty hands-off approach. So they just seem to have great taste bringing on, you know, different companies, all a strong focus in the mobility space. But yeah, we're proud to be part of a larger family of brands, really kind of meeting the needs, because, you know, not everybody needs a city bike. Some people might want a mountain bike, or some people might want a cargo bike, you know, with a young family. But it's cool to know that we operate independently and can set our own vision, but we have this family of support in the background.
No, that's great. So tell us a little bit about what does Gazelle have to offer today?
Yeah, so what we have to offer today is truly a Dutch style utility-driven bike that's meant for everyday life. So I would not recommend taking this out shredding. You know, I wouldn't recommend taking this on like a 500-mile like Tour de France style something, but it's just an incredibly well-made bike that's got a focus on utility, comfort, and quality. So it's everything's integrated. So the Dutch have this very utility-driven approach to everything they do. You don't dress for the bike ride, you dress for where you're going, and the bike is just the vehicle that gets you there. So we've made some updates to meet more of the needs of the U.S. market. So for example, we have hydraulic disc brakes, which are, you know, a bit more high performance, more responsive. And the U.S. tends to be a bit more hilly than the Netherlands, so it's kind of nice to have that added layer of performance. But we basically offer mid, low, and high step bikes. So depending on what your mobility or comfort level is, if you're going to be carrying a ton of cargo, it might be more appealing to have that kind of low step or traditional step through style that's super upright. Or you might actually want to be going out on some longer trekking and touring, or you have a super demanding commute and you want something more sportive. So we have like class 3 bikes. It's really what we think a full lineup for everyone who's looking to ride all the time in different ways and just find more ways to fit the bike into their lives, whether it's a commute, whether it's errands, or just simply getting from point A to point B. So I think, you know, I consider us a premium brand. So, you know, we come in at a higher price point than what you might see in some of the more traditional like hub mounted motor space, but that's actually very common for mid mounted motors. But, you know, you get what you pay for. There's this famous quote that's attributed to Miles Redd, who's an interior designer, but buy once, cry once. You know, buy something well-made, and it might sting initially, but it's going to pay off in the long run. These are beautiful, well-made bikes that are trusted, that local bike shops are happy to work on. They have certified components with strong partners like Bosch and like Gates for our belts drive, and that this is something that you can really trust and feel confident putting yourself and your loved ones on.
No, that sounds great. And, you know, I have a number of different brands of e-bikes, and I can tell you there's vastly one of the e-bikes that I had actually the second day I got it, and it was not a cheap e-bike. It was it had a mid-drive, but from 1 year I had to have warranty work. I had nothing but problems. It had intermittent power failures. So you go 12 miles and all of a sudden it would cut out. And they had the wiring harness change, all kinds of different things change. And finally, they bought it back because they couldn't do the final part, which is put a new motor on it because they said they didn't have any motors. And I was like, it was crazy. It was unbelievable. I will never forget. I was riding in the Everglades, and this thing started doing it. And I'm thinking, this is going to be bad. It's getting dark. And I'm on
gators and bobcats.
Gator food here. And I'm thinking, so that's, you know, and I bought my Gazelle bike. So I have a Gazelle bike, just full disclosure, and I love the bike. I bought the Gazelle bike, and I've had nothing but pleasure. That is by far, and I'm not, trying to blow smoke to anybody. I'm just telling you directly. This bike is, like the simple things, like taking off the chain guard. You can just pop it off if your chain happens to come out between the sprocket and the ring and the motor. It's easy to get it off. The other one I was in the Everglades with one of my other e-bikes. I had to completely take the chain ring off. Again, getting dark down at the Everglades National Park.
Yeah, mosquitoes are just feasting on you while you're trying to.
I'm thinking to myself, the mosquitoes are coming in. I got a flashlight and I got grease all over me, and I'm thinking this is crazy. But I got to tell you, on that side of it, like you can tell that the Dutch ride bikes because the bike is made just like the lock that's on the wheel in the back. So if you're go into a store for a short period of time and you don't want to have to put the lock on it, A-bus lock, you can go down through and just do that or do them both to have security. And it's just those kind of little things. And then double battery capacity. Range anxiety is a big deal with the e-bikes, but having that double capacity of 500-watt batteries, and then you've got a Bosch Performance Line motor that will take you up to 28 miles an hour. It's unbelievable, actually. And so Bosch out there, you do a great, actually, I know the Bosch folks, you do a great job with those motors. So yeah, the bike is right. And the people that haven't tried it, especially my age, you get to be older and you want to go out bike riding and you don't have quite the energy or the strength as a kid. It makes you like a kid again. It feels like being a kid because you can go fast and have fun.
I completely agree. I think it's interesting. Some people are slower to opening up to the idea of e-bikes, and I'll meet people wherever they are, full stop. If you're still a hardcore roadie and you've got your like vintage, titanium, whatever from Italy, great, awesome. But if you're more of a sedentary adult, but you're like, oh, I don't need an e-bike yet, that's also fine. But I will tell you, just like bikes are freedom, whether they're e-bikes or non-e-bikes. And if you can get yourself back into the habit of just, having enough core strength to be comfortable and balanced on the bike and confident, to have the right optimal riding position and not having the seat too low, but just bikes are freedom. It will allow you to get around independently forever. If you can't drive for whatever reason or another, this is a way that you can stay connected to society, connected to your body. It's so profound. So even if you don't think you need an e-bike yet, try it, or at least get back on the bike so that your body can be in the place that you can have that mobility and freedom as you get older. I think for me, my mom one time borrowed my bike and she came back with the dumbest smile I've ever seen on her face. And I was like, what happened out there? And she's like, this is the most fun, And then I tried to get my dad on the bike and his mobility isn't as great. And he just couldn't feel comfortable on the bike. And I was like, I wish I'd gotten him 10 years earlier because it's again, profound. I can't underestimate it.
No, I agree. I mean, the thing is, and it makes you feel better. I know my wife, she did not ride bikes much when she was a kid. And, she's 45 and just didn't ride bikes. And she's not in bad shape, but she said, I'm not going to try it. Then once she tried it, now I can't get her off the bike. She's like, actually, we do 34-mile bike rides now. So we're
amazing. It's just, there's no better way to get around. Walking is awesome. People rave about it. Running, it's not for everyone. That level of high impact is hard, but biking is something that everyone can do. You still get that fitness, but you can go at your own pace. And then the pace of taking in the world at the speed of a bike, it's just,
oh man,
you notice some things, but you get to skip the really boring stuff going at like that 4-mile-an-hour pace,
Yeah.
Walking.
It's so too boring. And then you end up getting too sweaty sometimes.
That's the other thing, right? I mean, in Florida, I'd probably still get sweaty riding an e-bike, but I would probably be at least less sweaty.
It's not bad, especially if you do it at nighttime. I like to do it at nighttime because there's a lot of critters out and you can see them. It's kind of neat. So what's going to happen? What's the future like? So let's look at the next 3 years for Gazelle. What can you tell us about what the future is going to look like in e-bikes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can speak to Gazelle specifically. I think, we are always looking several years out, but especially with, we're not in the business of making our own batteries and motors. So we, our field of vision is a little bit shorter. But I think some of the themes that are coming up, we just had a presentation by Bosch talking about their new BES3. So Bosch e-bike system, sort of generation 3 platform and what's coming in that whole e-bike ecosystem. I think, weight is always a concern with bikes. So we'll look at slight weight reductions, both on batteries and motor systems. There are trade-offs though, like you want a bike to be well made and secure and stable, and you want a stiff frame. So like you don't want a super light e-bike. I'd be kind of nervous about it, to be honest, because you want something that has the frame integrity to keep you safe. But all this to say, yeah, so motors and batteries potentially come a little bit lighter. We talked a little about range anxiety. That is definitely there, but with the mid-mounted motor, you get a lot of power efficiency because you're running that power through the drivetrain, and it's a really optimal gearing and optimal delivery of power depending on the conditions. So you do see far higher ranges than you do for some of the traditional hub-mounted motors, whether that's front or rear. But so we'll see slightly higher capacity batteries. The real limitation for capacity comes down to the cell level. So I'm not an electrical engineer, but there are definitely some limitations based on the cell technology itself. But certainly within the batteries, we're seeing, 500 kind of used to be the top end. Now we're seeing 625, 700 watt hour or 750 watt hour batteries.
Oh, I haven't seen 750. I've seen Reese Mueller or whatever with 625. I don't know if it's pronounced right. Reese Mueller.
Mueller, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them with 625, actually double 625s.
That's a lot of range. So I think, with the dual battery setup that you've got 1,000 watt hours. So I think that's really solid range. If you're doing like a big tour, or if you have just a really high intensity commute, or you are carrying a lot of cargo, like let's say you're routinely carrying your 40-pound child on the rear rack, like that will definitely eat into your range a bit. But I think there's some opportunity there. We also know like theft is real, right? And the most dedicated thief will find a way to get it done. And most of the stuff that you can put on a bike really slows them down in terms of lock. So I think anti-theft and also bike recovery features are going to be
like GPS. You think will be in
GPS, bike alarms, being able to remotely lock a bike with your phone. So one application I've heard about is when you lock the bike, it doesn't like stop the bike and the person goes violently flying off or anything. We don't have that yet, but it basically disables.
It's like those videos, those prank videos where they have people with electrified seats and they
that's a little intense. I mean, hey, do what you got to do. But for the remote lock feature, it works that you just disable the electrical system. So you go from riding, with pedal assist, going whatever speed you are, to riding, somewhere from 55 to 70 pound bike with no support. You're not going to be riding.
Fun. It's not fun, really.
And then if you can start pinging, with the IoT unit, your little GPS, you can find the bike. So I think that's something, further looking, more integration with personal smartphones. There's probably a lot there. There's some companies that look like they're trying to have just the phone actually be the thing that powers on the bike. So that added degree of personalization. And then if I really put on my spy hat, I think possibly someone with like a fingerprint ID, or maybe like,
I think that would be really great actually for face or fingerprint, right?
Yeah. Something that really makes it personalized. I mean, if you're sharing bikes within a household, that might get a little trickier, but with those like remote, fingerprint powered door locks, you can have multiple people in the household have their fingerprint registered. So I think there's definitely some more stuff there around like the more machine learning AI space, which I know nothing about, so I won't go too deep on that, but I think there's some interesting opportunity there. And then just looking at the materials, like we mentioned, so we use hydroformed aluminum frames. They're incredibly well made, very durable, stiff, responsive, great components. But if you're used to 8-pound carbon fiber road bikes, there's a little bit of that disconnect. But I think ultimately, with a bike that's going to be traveling at higher velocities, carrying cargo, you do want something that's super durable. But I think there could be some more materials innovation as well coming. So I can't give anything away for what's happening specifically with Gazelle, but we definitely will be incorporating some new technologies over the coming years, and especially going into next year. But I think the fleet as it is right now is really strong. And then we're just supplementing with a couple additions that will make, I think, a really good offering for pretty much any kind of rider, except maybe a very short rider, because we are Dutch and we make big bikes.
I gotta tell you, you guys really do make.
That's the opportunity, is bringing in extra small.
My legs were stretched out. I was like, oh my God, this thing's really big. The Ultimate T10 Plus, it's the
Ultimate frame is particularly large for sure.
It's big, but it's a beautiful bike. I mean, people comment on the color of the red color of the bike. They really like it. And I like it too. Although the mid-step Medeo Plus is really nice too, right?
Yeah, the petrol. Yeah, that's a great looking bike.
No, you guys make great bikes, and the only thing I can tell you to the audience out there, if you want to try a bike out, get out, try an e-bike. They're incredible, and if you're in places like Santa Cruz, they got an experience center there. We come down and you can take the bike out for a small fee and ride around, and you'll be addicted. They are really, really fun. And Gazelle makes an incredibly durable, fun, easy to service bike. So I got to tell you, it's incredible. So closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you, Tina?
Okay, closing thoughts. Yeah, I mean, I would say I can be brand agnostic, but I can't recommend just enough getting out and trying a bike if you haven't been on a bike in a few years, especially before kind of you lose that comfort, that balance, that hip mobility. Just, I think COVID opened up a lot of things for a lot of us. It was certainly an incredibly challenging time, but in there was some silver linings, whether it was temporary street closures, and people kind of getting out and just using the community streets in a different way without, as much traffic. Particularly, it helps support and renormalize kind of a resurgence of biking. And it's not just really extreme people shredding in their baggies with full face helmets or in their head to toe skin suit spandex, but really anybody can be out on a bike. It is an activity for everyone and it benefits everyone. So I would say try a bike, try an e-bike. If you are considering buying, I absolutely recommend trying before you buy. I know the appeal of shopping online is always there, but I've definitely met people who've had some buyer's remorse when they take the bike in for service at their local bike shop, and the shop's like, I won't work on that. It has got proprietary parts. So I really do want to support people wherever they are with their budget, but do your research, try to get your feet on a bike, because it's a really not only intimate piece of equipment, but it is physically going to carry you. Like this is something you want to feel safe on and know that it will be supported over the use of its life. So that's really my advice. So try bikes. Bikes are awesome. E-bikes are awesome. I have a slight preference for mounted motors personally, because it's just a more natural ride experience and it's more participatory. But just get out there and feel the wind in your face.
Well, I mean, I see people with these e-bikes with the hub motors, and they're going like 40 miles an hour. I see them with a throttle. I don't know, it's like they're not bikes. I mean, they're like motorcycles, right?
Yeah, it's like a lower powered motorcycle. And I think a lot of this stuff comes down to owner or operator responsibility. Whether it's just moving your body around, and you just run out between two parked cars, like that's not the best move. Or whether you're blasting down a bike path or a mixed use path that's got a, posted speed limit of 15 miles an hour, and you're just blazing people with their dogs or their kids or their whatever, like that's not cool. Or, cutting someone off in traffic in a car. So just, we're all in this together. We're sharing space together. We're just trying to move through space, like be respectful, be kind, be patient. I mean, I think that's definitely some parting thoughts I'd mention. To get in touch with me, yeah, I mean, certainly you can come see us in Santa Cruz. We're open Thursdays through Mondays, 10 to 5, and not selling anything but a good time, I like to say. And then, yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You can usually see me in various product videos on the Gazelle website. I had a couple come in yesterday and they're like, we saw you in the video about frame size. I was like, local celebrity. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, you're doing a great job. Gazelle's got great bikes and your service is unparalleled. Really great service. So thank you for joining my show today. And to my audience out there, thank you for joining one more time. GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. And my name is Gary Fowler and I'm your host. You can check us out on Apple, Spotify, Google, and 4 other sources. We're out there. Check it out. Listen to this again. Tina's got some great thoughts, and thank you for your time, Tina. Thanks, Gazelle, and thanks to all of you. Stay tuned for another exciting edition. I'll be back on Thursday. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Bye.